Should be coming up live any second. Thank you very much for being here tonight as we go through the second part of the Jesus myths, subtitled "Was Jesus Born Out of a Rock Wearing a Hat?" We'll go over just the end of that presentation. And Ask Truth Apologetics, welcome. Thank you for joining me again.
Absolutely. Happy to be here, buddy.
Great, good stuff. Audience, please let me know that the audio is coming through okay, that everything is good. Just drop me a one in the comments. I see the chat is very active. Yeah, guys, good to see so many people here today. Okay, so yeah, I'm actually not checking. Oh, okay, everything is good. So, AT, any words before we begin? Should we fill people in as to our very, you know how frustrated I get. I get a little annoyed at this stuff. You're far calmer than I am about this, but our adventurous week.
Yeah. So I think God blessed me with this weird patience with Muslims. It's very interesting. And He did not bless you with that same patience. But we have been Lloyd. Obviously, your specialty is in the Sharia law, Sharia manual, fiqh, all those different types of rulings. Um, And constantly during our videos and stuff, and in the comment section, we would get people challenging us, challenging the Bible, whatever it is. And then we would eventually move into the topic of Sharia, and we just want to discuss it, right? We want to have a conversation about it. We want to um, expose it. Say, okay, Muslims, like, Lloyd has done a tremendous amount of research going into what is the Sharia, what are these rulings, what is actually Islam, how is the law applied. Um, but we're not infallible people. So if all the Muslims who say that Lloyd is lying are willing to come on a live discussion with us, and explain their side, explain their position, show where or how Lloyd's mistaken or lying, then we're open to that, right? We're opening
Yeah.
ourselves up, opening up your channel, Lloyd, to having that type of discussion. So we've been inviting, at least a half dozen Muslims on
I've invited
over.
probably 14 or 15 different people, especially the regulars.
Yeah.
Yeah, go on.
Um, and a lot of them, look, if you don't want to discuss it, just go, I don't want to discuss it. I'm not interested in the discussion. And that's it, right? We are not going to force you to discuss something that you don't want to discuss. But quite a few of them have been like, yeah, I have no problem. Let's discuss it. Let's debate it. Let's talk about it. But then when we start to set up a time, we start to set up, kind of how the dialogue is going to go. Um, they start doing this little, I call it the Dawa dash away, right? Um, they begin to withdraw. Well, that's not the term that I want. This isn't the book that I want. It has to be in Arabic, not English. So they start they'll accept the terms, and then they'll start to be like, well, and then they'll change the terms, and then they'll start to become the victim of, oh, well, you made this unfair, boo-hoo.
Yeah.
And then it eventually just becomes, I'm not going to debate you because or even discussion. We're not even really trying to debate, um, because you're not nice,
Yeah.
dude.
Well,
Like,
yeah, so I've invited at least a dozen, probably more, especially the regular commenters who are, as you know, very well informed, highly knowledgeable. And I've approached them all and invited, said, look, let's have a discussion. I will read the rulings. Here are the books. I gave them the links. I said, these are the names of the books. Here are the links. Download these. We will utilize these references because they are authoritative and common. We will utilize these and I will read the rulings. We can read them together. And I just want your views, your opinion, your thoughts.
mhm,
And we've had lots of rejections. No one seems to want to step up. And yeah, those who have, they first agree. Then they say that, oh, wait, hold on, I never agreed to those terms. Oh,
mhm.
those terms are not right. We need to do the following. And then they start providing their own terms. And then it's like, then they're like, I'm not doing it under those conditions. And then it's like, I was willing to go with you, but you don't want to accept my terms. You don't want to do this debate with me. I'm like, no, I wasn't the one who. So yeah, this has been hysterical. Um, None of them, not one of them, are willing to actually just. We're willing to give them all the time they need to discuss. I just like, here's the ruling. Now remember, Sharia is the perfect law for mankind.
Mhm.
It is Allah's own law. It is the law. Remember, Sharia for the UK, Sharia for the world, Sharia for America, right?
Right. Mhm.
We want to live under Sharia law. So let's read the rulings of Sharia law. And none of them want to discuss this. If it's the perfect law, then it will be moral and good and
Right.
right,
Right, and
which is,
even if it seems to us, right, people who don't understand it, even if it doesn't seem good, then they should be confident enough that we just don't understand some aspect of it. So
they
we're
can
inviting
explain
them
it though,
on
right?
to be able to explain to us, why, cutting the heads off of apostates is actually the best thing to do. Like, I
Well,
don't, it
even
doesn't
prior
seem
to
right
that
to me, but
point, we've
please
been
explain
told
it
that
to
this is false. This isn't true about Islam. And
me.
therefore, if these rulings do not exist, A, we will not find them in the Islamic sacred law, because
Right.
that is what they call it, Islamic sacred law.
Mhm.
And two, if we align, we will then be discovered because these rulings do not exist.
Yeah.
And yet somehow they not one will step up.
So far,
So
well,
so
I'm
guys,
I'm still
if you
hopeful that
know
there's
someone
there's
who,
somebody out there.
if you know of a proud Muslim who loves his Sharia and he wears big gold panties, please ask them to contact me, or contact Ask rather, and we will set up a talk. It's a discussion. They are free to talk. We will talk on various subjects that don't exist,
Right.
like premarital sex. Also, guys, I know one question that has been plaguing Christianity from the beginning of time is the question that you have been struggling with since you were a young child, first entering Sunday school, is what is the ruling on eating mermaids?
I was actually gonna ask that question. It's so crazy you're coming covering that. I was gonna ask what the Sharia ruling is on that.
Yeah, well, what is the, guys in the comments, have you struggled for years on whether it's okay to eat mermaids or not? Because here's where Islam actually has a benefit for you. It has asked and answered that
Mhm.
question. So let's step forward, guys. So here we go.
Alhamdulillah.
Let's talk about the ruling on eating mermaids. And I need to thank Yeshua is Yahweh for this gem of a find. So thank you very much for that, for this little piece of insanity. But praise be to Allah. What is the ruling on eating mermaids? Well, let's answer that question. A mermaid is a creature that lives in water and looks like a human. As to whether it really exists, or it is a mythical being, that is subject to further discussion. So they're not answering that question. What they are saying is it's okay to eat one if you catch one. I'm sorry, this is so funny. Oh man.
I thought I could contain my laughter. I was all right.
No, no, no.
It's a serious question that you're right has been plaguing me ever since Jonah was swallowed by the fish. I wondered, what was he eating down there, and maybe it was a mermaid.
So many of the fuqaha mentioned mermaids and differed on the ruling. So this was a major problem for Muslims. Can we eat these mermaids? And so this major scholars sat down, and so if you've ever had a question, here's one way you can go here and read this. And they
Mhm,
differed on the ruling concerning them. Some of them said that they are permissible to eat because of the general meaning of the evidence, which says that whatever is in the sea is permissible. Okay, this is the view of the Shafis and the Hanbalis. Oh boy, okay. And the view of most of the Malikis and Ibn Hazm and others. And some said it's haram because it is not a kind of fish. This is the view of the Hanafis. Now notice the Hanafis are 4% of Muslims at best. Okay,
mhm.
4%. So it goes on here. As for that which lives in the water and cannot live anywhere else, it is all halal, no matter what state it is in, whether it is caught alive and then dies, or it dies in the water and then floats or does not float, whether it was killed by a sea creature or a land animal, it is all halal to eat, whether it is the pig of the sea, the dolphin, pig
I
of the sea,
I
a
didn't know
mermaid.
dolphins were pigs of the sea.
You do now. Now you know. This is,
Because they like to roll around in mud. I don't know what. Anyway, whatever. Weird.
this is advanced knowledge, okay? Just these guys spent a lot of time thinking about this. It is allowed to eat whether it was killed by an idol worshipper, a Muslim, a Kitabi, a Jew, or a Krishna. It was not killed. And here's the proof in the verses which Allah says, and the two seas kind of water are not alike. That is palatable, blah, blah, blah. It's okay to eat mermaids, even if they died.
uh, you know what I was wondering as you were kind of going through this, as I'm reading about it, I've personally never seen a mermaid, nor have I heard or seen any actual photographic evidence of mermaids. So, do you think that we don't have mermaids now because the Muslims ate them all?
That's why you don't see Bigfoot anymore, I think,
They
as
ate
well.
Sasquatch too. What's the ruling on Sasquatch?
I don't know, but I think it's very
Maybe a
similar
Yeti.
to this is why there's no mermaids. So that's why there used to be rumors of mermaids, and now there are no more mermaids, guys.
They went and
We
found them, ate them all.
Yeah, yeah. This is I
Another
think
thing that concerns me too, right? Because when we have conversations with Muslims, they take offense that Christians don't follow all of the same teachings as Judaism, right? Because obviously Jesus came, fulfilled the law, brought about a new law. They're not going to pay attention to that, but they assume that they're following the old covenant. And the old covenant is very explicit about not eating an animal that has just died, right? Like you have to go out,
yeah,
slaughter the animal, and then it is kosher to eat. But apparently, roadkill is totally fine
yeah,
for Muslims to
yeah.
eat. I,
Roadkill
I
is
shouldn't say
against.
roadkill, boat roadkill. Um,
Yeah,
totally
yeah.
fine.
That is actually against. It goes against the law of Moses, but also it goes against natural law. In fact, it technically goes against the Ten Commandments.
No,
Right.
exactly.
So yes. So okay. Well, with that one out the way, um, yeah. So that's mermaids. Now I want to go to a slightly more serious topic. This is this question also on Islam. So guys, if you are ever concerned about whether or not it's okay to eat a mermaid, now you know. If you want the link to this ruling, I will drop this in the chat right now. And thank you to Yeshua is Yahweh for this. There we go, guys. Enjoy that. So back to Islam QA. Okay, what is the ruling? Okay, on yeah, what is the ruling on marrying young girls? So I want to bring this up first. Okay, what is the ruling on marrying young girls? So let's go into the Sharia just briefly. Okay, as we know, it says very much in the Fath al-Bari, which is a commentary on Bukhari, volume 8, blah, blah, blah. Aisha had not yet reached the age of puberty. The Apostle of Allah married me when I was 7, and so on. And it says here in the Sharia that puberty is when you turn 15, or if you fall pregnant and you're not yet. Yeah, so you need to, so when a girl has a first menstrual period or pregnancy, if she falls pregnant before she's menstruated, it means that an adult had sex with her before she menstruated. And if she falls pregnant, that means she was mature. Therefore, I don't know, is there something morally wrong with that? Is there something backwards about that, Ask?
Yes. So there, you you can't have sex with a prepubescent girl unless the prepubescent girl falls pregnant. I don't have words to describe that special kind of stupid. It's just it's self-evidently the stupidest thing I've ever heard in my whole life.
Yeah, I know there's something very
Besides
wrong with
mermaids,
it.
actually, mermaids exist. I don't know what's dumber.
Yeah, well, Nicholas Paulson said this could be closely related to the UFO report set to be released in June this year. It'll probably reveal that most UFO sightings are Hanafi scholars on a field trip. The flying carpets.
What if they're
So,
powered by mermaids?
so
Ah,
this is a very popular Islamic tarbiyah guide, which is a conduct guide, right? You should, the first stage starts from birth until puberty, and puberty is 15. So, these things now, all of the Sharia basically says that most agree that 15 is the age of puberty. However, let's have a look at this ruling. Let's go back into this ruling and see how this ruling, well, let's see what it tells us. So, why Islam allowed to marry children, girls of age below 10, without their permission? It is said that in the case of children, it requires the consent of their parents only. I also know it requires to get the permission in the case of adults. So it does require permission if you're an adult, but if you're a young child, and the Sharia supports this, you can get married without your permission. Actually,
okay.
marriage has to take place between the persons who have even a little maturity, but in the case of children, it not happened. Can you justify this ruling of Islam child marriage? Let's see what Islam. So first they answer the question of acting, whether acting, and acting makes you unfit to give testimony in court, of course, because this is not approved of in the Sharia. But let's have a look at this. Marrying a young girl before she reaches the age of adolescence is permitted in the Sharia. Indeed, it was narrated that there is scholarly consensus on this point, the ijma. Allah says, and those of your women as have passed the age of monthly courses, for them the iddah, the prescribed period, if you have doubt about their period, is 3 months. And for those who have no courses, i.e., they are still immature, their iddah is 3 months. And that is from Quran 65:4. So this scholar quotes this, and he says, in this verse, we see that Allah has made the iddah in case of divorce of a girl who does not have periods because she is young and not yet reached puberty 3 months. This clearly indicates that Allah has made this a valid marriage. Your thoughts, AT?
Um, yeah, I got some thoughts on this. The first thought that comes to my mind is a lot of the conversations that we do have with our Muslim interlocutors, and that is, they say, look, we'll bring up the age of Aisha, 9 years old, 54-year-old Muhammad bouncer had sex with her, right? We find that to be detestable.
Yeah,
Most Muslims will agree that is detestable, but that's not what actually happened, right? They're going to start making up this thing, and they're going to say, that hadith is not sound, and you're like, well, yes, it is. It's a Sahih hadith. Their next argument ends up being, well, it has to correspond with the Quran, and there is no such verse in the Quran that says that it's okay to engage in sexual intercourse with a prepubescent girl. And then we'll show them 65:4, and they'll be like, well, it doesn't say specifically that they are not of age, even though every single tafsir I've ever read on it makes sure to clarify that it's girls who are too young to menstruate. Um, and then even in the Sharia, right? So the Sharia is derived, and this is a really good example of how the Sharia is utilizes the Quran, the Hadith, the Tafsir, and then they put it into a very clear and understandable ruling, right?
yeah,
So that's why we are interested in the Sharia. What did the fiqh manuals say about child marriage? Well, it makes it very explicit, and it
yeah,
uses it uses the Quran, the Hadith, and the Tafsir to explain why the scholars have come to a full consensus
yes,
on the matter. You can't argue with this.
yep,
I don't know
and
how someone can actually argue with this and remain a Muslim. They become an apostate. They
yeah.
become a heretic to Orthodox Islam.
So then they mention Bukhari, of course, where Bukhari says that she was married when she was 6, right? And he consummated with her when she was 9, and the Prophet, blah, blah, blah. And they mention Bukhari and Muslim. So he goes on to say, the fact that it is permissible to marry a young girl, okay, does not mean that it is permissible to have intercourse with her. Okay, fine and well, let's go on. Rather, that should not be done until she's able to do it. Okay, for that reason, the Prophet delayed the consummation of his marriage to Aisha with regard to the wedding party of a young married girl at the time of consummating the marriage. If the husband and the guardian of the girl, not the girl, the husband and the guardian, and if you have a guardian, it means you're underage.
Hmm.
If you agree upon something that will not cause harm to the young girl, then that may be done. If they disagree, then Ahmad ibn Hanbal, and Abu Ubaid say that once a girl reaches the age of 9, then the marriage may be consummated even without her consent. What do we call having sex without consent?
Yeah, I was going
AT?
to ask you the same question, right? So if that happens and I report that to the police, what happens to me? Like what happens to the person who did
You
that? That's
go to
called rape.
jail.
That's a legitimately textbook definition of rape. You had sexual intercourse with an unwilling party. That's
Yes.
rape.
Now they say this does not apply in the case of a girl who is younger, but Malik, Shafi, and Abu Hanifa said that marriage may be consummated when the girl is able for intercourse, which varies from one girl to another, so no age limit can be set. So if she's 5 and she's ready, well, hey, she's mature, right? She's a mature woman.
Right. And then how do you determine she's ready? Oh, her guardian was like, "Yeah, she's good to go."
You know, she sits in the potty and her toes touch the ground. Well, she's good to go, right? I
She's learned her
understand. Or she
ABCs.
looks mighty fine to me. Let's do this. I think that's the rule. I don't know. I don't know. But yeah, so there is nothing in the hadith of Aisha to set an age limit or to forbid that in the case of a girl who's able for it before the age of 9, or to allow it in the case of a girl who is not able for it. So how do you determine that she's not able for it and she's reached the age of 9? Because according to the ruling, if she's 9, she's good to go. And if your wife resists you, you know, right? And if your wife doesn't comply, you can use what's called non-verbal communication. Am I making sense here, AT? Do you think that non-verbal communication is implicit here?
Well, I mean, you've got your lightsaber there, so I think that's nonverbal. Oh
Unfortunately,
my gosh.
understand. So Aisha reached physical maturity at the time when her marriage was consummated. How do you know? It is preferable not to marry Opi's daughter when she's still young, unless there's a valid reason for that. Now, why we said blah, blah, blah. Look, guys, I mean, does anything more need to be said here?
I mean, legitimately no. And this isn't and Islam QA is written by modern day scholars, right? These are modern day scholars. These aren't, 900 AD scholars living in
Yeah,
some weird tribal town. Like these are people who are writing for the internet and they know how to upload their stuff. Um and
yeah,
and
I'm putting the link
what
in
are
the
we
chat.
supposed to think? Seriously, what are we supposed to think? And let's play this game. If there's any Muslims who are watching this now or later, if we were to tell you as Christians, hey, you know what? Jesus said that you can do everything that this said right here. You would lose your mind saying how wrong it is and how horrible it is and awful and all that kind of stuff.
Mary was 12. Mary was 12. Mary was 12. Well, this says if she's like underage and good to go, she's good to go.
Right. And then if you apply same standards, look, she's 3 years beyond what she needed to be.
Yeah.
So why are you upset?
Oh
Like
yeah, if
it's
there's grass in the field, play ball.
no,
Muhammad,
no,
AD
no.
690. This is gallows humor, man.
Uh, let me throw up real quick.
Yeah, guys. Okay, so look, we need to move on to the main topic. But guys, I mean, honestly, this week we've been hearing a lot of this nonsense, and I just wanted to address this. So John Week, Weak, you guys might have heard of him, John Week,
Mhm.
um, who chickened out of our last discussion. What are your thoughts on this? And I'd like to discuss this directly in the Sharia. I can read you the rulings. We'll use the Hidayah, and we use the Reliance, and we can use others. Like, for instance, there are 4 very popular manuals in Pakistan. One of them is Neil Bailey's Digest of Muhammadan Law, which is actually used in Pakistani courts. So it's actually considered valid law in the Pakistani
Mhm.
High Court. Let's read them. Let's pull up the rulings, see what they say, and you can give us your interpretation. All right. So, guys, thanks. Let's move on here. At, any last minute comments?
No, I mean, and I think all the criteria that we've laid out is more than fair. You can recognize that Lloyd and I have a discussion every single week, basically. Nobody times it, right? We're not timing. Oh, Lloyd, you get 5 minutes, and I get 5 minutes. No, we're having a discussion. We're having a dialogue. You lay
Yeah,
out whatever it is you say. You pause. You allow me to make a comment. You and I mostly agree on everything, so we don't have to go back and forth on it. But that's what we're doing. That's how mature adults have conversations, right? And
yeah,
and I think one of the things they worry about is, Lloyd, if I said something crazy, you could mute me, right? Like you have the ability to do that. This is your channel. If you start to say something crazy, I can't mute you, but I can
that
I
would
can
be
hit
shown
the
live in public, and I would be
right.
shown to be a complete
Exactly.
doofus.
And
Right?
and if I don't like what you're saying, I could just hang up. It's not that that's just how every conversation works. Even in person, if we're having conversation, I can do the toddler thing and plug my ears and loud, loud, I can't hear you,
Yeah,
or I can walk away or whatever. That's how conversations work. And you enter into conversations with bravery. You have to be brave. You have to have big girl panties
yeah,
in order to engage in these conversations.
yeah.
So
But they won't
I
discuss with me.
hope
So, guys,
I
so
doubt
last week I
you do.
was mentioning about Mithra. This is Mithra who emerged from a rock wearing a hat. This is Mithra killing the bull.
Mhm.
Here's Mithra, and obviously you look at this and you go, yeah, that's Jesus. So I just wanted to just bring that up. So guys, I'm going to step forward to the very end of this. Okay, so this is what we talked about last time, and you can see here is the reanimated
Dionysus.
of Osiris, and this is
Osiris
how
is that, yeah.
Horus was born, right? So yeah, let's just skip all that. I'll jump forward again back to where we need to be. So let's go here. So this is Bart Ehrman. There's no scholar in any college or university in the Western world who teaches classics, ancient history, New Testament, early Christianity, any related field who doubts that Jesus existed. Okay, and then should I play this? Ask, do you, AT, do you think that I need to
I mean, we played it last
to
week.
week? So no need, right?
Yeah, so I would say if you guys haven't watched the video, just watch the one prior to this, and you can see it.
Yeah,
And
we'll
you could
check the
even
link.
probably even post the link into the chat box there. It's just basically Bart Ehrman saying Jesus existed. If you don't think he did, you're an idiot.
Yeah, let me plunk the link into the chat so you can guys. So I'll just type. So Bart Ehrman, this is the link to the speech. You can watch it, and he says basically that all of these scholars are just full of beans. Okay,
Hmm.
right. So move. Yeah, as he goes, and there's so much evidence, right? So let's talk today about the historical Jesus and what can a historical investigation tell us about him, right? So here's Bart Ehrman again. He, Jesus, certainly existed, as virtually every competent scholar of antiquity, Christian and non-Christian, agrees. Bart Ehrman. Right, so hopefully that lays a foundation.
Hmm.
And of course, we know that Muslims and atheists love to point to Bart Ehrman to make
Yep.
their points, but when Bart Ehrman goes against them, silence.
Yep. Yep. Special pleading always.
Yeah, so now, what are the sources that confirm the historicity of Jesus? Well, they fall into two general categories. And AT, you may want to add, because you know more about the subject than I do on
Yeah.
this
No,
one.
for sure.
There are independent testimonies, and there are documents that comprise the New Testament. Now, don't forget, before the Bible was written, it was just a collection of different documents of varying levels of authenticity and scholarship from slightly different periods, but all centered around that period, right?
Hmm.
And then, of course, scholars had to sift through those and then decide which met the proper criteria for being authentic, for meeting the criteria for being scriptural, for being genuinely scriptural, meeting the doctrine of the church, and so on and so on. And then the ones which were bad were discarded, the ones which
Yep.
met the criteria were kept,
Hmm.
and that became the Bible. So the ones where they could not trace authorship with any level of credibility were discarded, and the rest were kept. And then, of
Exactly.
course, we have ancient documents outside of the New Testament. Your comments?
Yeah, I mean, I think we need to pay attention to this from a purely historical perspective, right? Imagine we're not doing any kind of theological anything. What we're going to do, what we're going to take you through is what historians are looking at, not putting any bias in there, nothing, just following the evidence as it goes. So the only thing that I didn't see on this slideshow before was what's known as explanatory power. So Christians, without a doubt, existed in the first century of Jerusalem and in the Roman Empire, right? The Emperor Nero persecuted Christians, right? There was a fire in Rome, and he blamed the Christians for it. So that means by 62 AD, there was enough of a movement of people who are known as Christians that the emperor could place blame on them for a fire that he himself actually started. So the
Mm-hmm.
question that a historian is going to ask themselves is what explains the motivation of people who became Christians, right? And we're going to go through some stuff, and I'll continue
Who
to
were
talk
willing to
about that
die for their
more. But
beliefs.
right, they're willing to be persecuted, they're willing to die for their beliefs, and the other question too is what selfish gain were they getting from it, right? This isn't an Islamic movement where they're capturing and claiming land and territory and wealth and in that sense, right? There would be no earthly reason to give up all of your possessions, follow someone whom was crucified that you truly believe resurrected from the dead, that was God incarnate, um, give to the poor, turn the other cheek, right, have no desire for any kind of political power, why would people want to do this? And especially eyewitnesses during the lifetime of eyewitnesses of the
Yeah,
people of Jesus. If they knew that he wasn't killed, existed, resurrected, then there's exactly no reason for them to be willing to face that kind of persecution.
you're right. Yeah, so let's step forward then and just go through some of this, right? So the New Testament is evidence for Jesus. Now, of course, people say you can't use the Bible to prove the Bible, but you know Muslims use the Quran to prove the Quran, right? That's circular logic, but
But the
whatever.
Quran's the direct word of Allah, dude.
Uh-huh.
Oh, yep.
Uh-huh. Yeah,
Checkmate.
moving on. So now, when historians examine the New Testament for historical validity, they're not looking at it as a holy book. They treat it as a collection of ancient documents like other works from antiquity. Like, you obviously have Shakespeare's works, which you look at the manuscripts, you look at the history, look at the sources. Now,
Mhm.
you can take Homer's Iliad, which I believe is the second best sourced historical document, the Iliad.
Correct.
I believe there's something like 652 copies of the
Mhm.
Iliad that are known to exist,
Yep.
right? And through this, they've made historians and scholars have looked at this and said, okay, well, this can be traced authentically, and we can be fairly sure that this is Homer's Iliad. Homer was the author, and this is the all these documents are very, very similar, if not identical, and thus, there we go. The
Yep.
Bible has something like 30,000 copies. So the Bible has dozens and dozens and hundreds of times more copies than the next nearest historical document from antiquity. The document has more than between 25 and 35,000 copies, which can
Mhm.
be verified. And yet somehow the Bible is not authentic when the Bible is the single most authentically verifiable ancient document. Your thoughts?
Yes. No, I mean, that's it. I say just keep moving forward with it. Everything you said is
Yeah. So
accurate.
in the first century, there was no New Testament. There was a collection of independent and reference documents that recounted the life of Jesus. In other words, the New Testament was at one point independent corroboration of the life of Jesus. It was independent testimony. This
Mhm.
was collected. Now we have the Bible, and now people say, well, the Bible's not valid. But when people went to look for evidence, they found these writings and said, okay, let's take these writings. We can trace these writings. There's some authenticity here. There's historicity here, and then they collected those into the Bible. And then there are references made to Jesus outside. Now, don't forget, the New Testament was originally references outside the Bible.
Mhm.
These references just made it into the Bible. And of course, then we have references made to Jesus outside the Bible that also confirm historical statements made in the New Testament. However, these do not tell us anything new that is not within the Bible, not known within the Bible already. I'm just going to check the comments.
Mhm.
The early Christians, so Stephen says, the early Christians were burned alive and thrown to the lions. Why would they go through all of that for the sake of a man who never existed? That is true.
Right.
Alonzo Harris, he is known as, he's John Week's partner. Alonzo Harris is the famous character from a movie, as you know. 94% of biblical manuscripts are from above the ninth century. Well, 100% of the Quran manuscripts are from above the ninth century. Did you know that?
Mhm.
Right. So, how many existing early Quranic manuscripts are there? Four. The Bible, like what, up to 35,000? So, Alonzo, it's so good to see you. Please join me for a discussion on the Sharia. We want to go through the fiqh of Islam, your sacred Islamic law. I will present the rulings. I will read them. I'll give you the books, the links. You can download them, read them, and I will discuss them with you. We will talk about various interesting subjects like, does Islam allow prepubescent sex? The answer is yes. Does it allow you to murder apostates? Does it allow you to make violent warfare? Please join me. I'm extending an invitation for you to join me. Would next Sunday at this time be suitable for you for us to meet, have a polite, cordial discussion? I will ask you questions, show you the rulings, and I'd like your commentary on them. Are you willing to accept my invitation? Just have a discussion. You will have all the resources given to you well in advance. So, of course, claims are easy. Claims are very, very easy to make. So, anyway, so let's move on. So, the New Testament documents meet the core tests used by historians for validating works from the ancient world, right? So, they meet the biographical test, the internal evidence test, and also what's known as the external evidence test. All the New Testament documents were compiled via eyewitness testimony and written during the lifetime of other eyewitnesses who could confirm or deny the historicity of the claims being made. Hey, Alonzo Harris has accepted. So now, before
Oh,
we get to you,
and you will also accept his challenge after.
I have no idea what the challenge is after, but we
Uh,
will read through the Sharia and we will get your opinions. Because if, as everyone has claimed, including yourself, I believe, that I'm lying about what's in the Sharia, I'd love to, I'd love to see if the claims that I make are supported by your own law. So now he's accepted. I'm looking forward to how you're going to weasel out of this, like all of your comrades have. But if you do, that'll be fascinating.
right.
Right.
Alonzo, why don't you show us good faith? And do you want him to email you, Lloyd, or send you a
I
Skype
can
message?
contact
How
you.
would
You
you
can
prefer?
moderate. You can mediate. I mean, just to
Yeah,
have,
I'd
just so
be
you make
happy
sure
to.
that there's equal time, or more than equal time. I'll be asking some questions and commenting it, but I mean, we want to make sure he gets good time to speak,
Okay.
so
So
we can.
to show you're serious, Alonzo, why don't you send Lloyd? Do you want to email from him, or do you want him to email me, or what would
He
you
can email
prefer?
you. He can contact you, and you'll handle it.
Okay.
We'll make sure he gets everything, and we'll set it up.
All right. I will put my Skype link in the chat here. Hopefully the YouTube people don't block it, but I'll put my Skype profile link on there, buddy. Just send me a message and we will get everything set up.
Excellent. So now, okay. So we have from William Lane Craig, from the very nature of the case, the best historical sources were included in the New Testament. Many, many sources. So we have the four Gospels. Now, something like, how many Gospels were there? About 28 or something that were rejected, if I recall, 80?
Yeah, I'm not sure how many there were, honestly.
There were
But
more
yeah,
than 2 dozen. Just send me a location. Oh, so you want to know where I live, Alonzo?
the location is on the internet. You can sit in your on your couch, and we'll sit on our couch.
Yeah. Yeah, we'll just contact AT and we will have this. We'll do this live on air. So,
No,
okay.
what do you mean, no, Alonzo? No, what? You
No, he
don't want?
doesn't want to know where I don't know. He doesn't want to know where I live. So
Oh,
look.
okay, gotcha.
Uh, so we'll present the rulings and get your views. Okay, so people who only so the best historical sources were included in the New Testament. People who insist on evidence taken only from writings outside the New Testament don't understand what they're asking us to do. They're demanding that we ignore the earliest primary sources about Jesus in favor of sources that are later, secondary, and less reliable, which is crazy as historical methodology. Your thoughts, AT?
No, I agree. I agree. I mean, historians look at the earliest sources. They want independent attestation, and when they do look at the sources, they use different kinds of criteria, right? So textual criticism. Different times have different writing styles, word usages, and things like that. So they want to make sure that when they're examining it, that these writings are coming from the time frame of Jesus' lifetime. Also, they're going to be looking at things like, are they getting correct and accurate political figures, major figures of the time, um, geography types of things, right? Because when we start looking into the later Gnostic texts, they get wrong people, wrong places, wrong way of using words, right? It's showing that these words are coming
Yeah,
from
wrong
the
grammar,
mid second
the wrong
second century
paper, the
instead
wrong
of
kind
yeah.
of ink, all sorts of issues. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So they don't care about the theological stuff. They're looking at it purely from a historical, textual, perspective.
All right. Yeah. So now we need to look at the general historicity of Jesus. So the crucifixion sources in brief. So we have numerous sources. I'll go through 15 of them. One, we have the pre-Mark Passion narrative. Then you've got the source documents known as Q. Then you have the Gospel of John. Oddly enough, the Gospel of John is actually verified within the earliest Sirah of Muhammad, right? Then you've got Paul's epistles. Then you have Hebrews, the book of Hebrews. You have 1 Peter 2:24. You have Clement of Rome. You have Ignatius. You have Justin Martyr. You have Josephus Flavius, the historian. You have Cornelius Tacitus, who did not like Christians,
Hmm.
right? You have Lucian. You have Misa Bar Serapion. You have Thallus and the Talmud. Your
Yep.
thoughts, AT?
No, and those are the so most of those are actually extra biblical text. They're outside the New Testament, they're outside the Bible, and they make mention of Jesus and the most important event in history, which is his crucifixion, which just by that fact alone, even if it doesn't say anything about resurrection, completely nullifies the validity of the Quran and Allah.
Right.
Period. So,
So let's have a look at through some of these sources. Now, consequently, right, it says here, to get rid of the report, Nero fastened the guilt and inflicted the most exquisite tortures on a class hated. Now, this is from Tacitus in the book Annals in book 15.
mhm.
To get rid of the report, Nero fastened the guilt and inflicted the most exquisite tortures on a class hated for the abominations called Christians by the populace. Christus, from whom the name had its origin, suffered the extreme penalty during the reign of Tiberius at the hands of one of our procurators, Pontius Pilatus. This is from Roman Tacitus.
Yep. So
Right.
what does that tell you? So when we read the New Testament, the Gospels, even the epistles, what do we learn about Jesus? Right? So he experienced extreme penalty during the reign of Tiberius, right? So the Gospels get the right time. Pontius Pilate, right? They get the right person and they get the right penalty. So we
Right.
have outside historical proof, not from a friendly person, right? Not from someone who's like, oh, Christians are my best friend. No, someone who genuinely hated Christianity and all it stood for, right? So to me, that's a very powerful testimony that points to at least the validity of Christ's existence, Christ's crucifixion by the Roman procurator Pontius Pilate, um, and that people worship him and follow him.
Right. And of course, we started off the series last week with all these statements from these leading scientists, especially like biologists, who, as you know, are superb historians,
All of this.
that Jesus never existed. But
Mhm,
anyway, one of the most certain facts of history is that Jesus was crucified on orders of the Roman prefect of Judea, Pontius Pilate. That's
mhm.
from our good friend Bart Ehrman. It's in the Historical Jesus lecture, transcript, and course guidebook 2000, page 162. So Bart Ehrman again, who again, as we know, atheists and Muslims love to quote him. However, here he is again saying that, no, unfortunately, these quotes. Of course, Alonzo Harris states that's not a historical fact because I, I don't think Alonzo Harris exists. I haven't seen any
Alonzo,
historical
yeah.
evidence for his existence.
Right. Alonzo, claims made without evidence can be dismissed without evidence. I think everybody understands that. So you
Right.
just making a claim, great. Go ahead and provide some sort of evidence to support your claim. And by the way, a document written 600 years later, no historian would count that as any kind of valid proof of anything. But go ahead, please,
Alonzo
entertain
Harris
us.
asks if he can write. I don't know, dude. You just did. Maybe that proves you can write. I
You
don't
even
know.
spelled right correctly with a W. So.
Yeah. So, okay. So now, of course, we know that, yes, as Nicholas Paulson says, just like the Apostles' Creed, who suffered under Pontius Pilate.
Mhm,
So now, there are no substantial doubts about the general course of Jesus' life. Now, this is from E.P. Saunders, called the book called The Historical Figure of Jesus. So now, let me just go to my notes here. Okay. So, the life of Jesus, who he is and why he matters. Okay. Saunders is a fellow of the British Academy in 1966. He received a doctorate of theology degree from Union Theological Seminary in New York City in 1990, a doctor of letters degree from the University of Oxford, and a doctor of theology degree from the University of Helsinki. He has authored and co-authored or edited 13 books and numerous articles. He has received a number of prizes, including the 1990 University of Louisville and Louisville Presbyterian Theological Seminary Grawemeyer Award for the best book on religion, and published in the 1980s for Jesus and Judaism. Right, so he says here, there are no substantial doubts about the general course of Jesus' life, when and where he lived, approximately when and where he died, and the sort of thing that he did during his public activity. I shall first offer a list of statements about Jesus that meet two standards. They are almost beyond dispute, and they belong to the framework of his life and especially of his public career. So let's see. Church fathers who quoted Tacitus never quote this passage. I have no idea what he's referring to, but whatever. Anyway, so Alonzo Harris says, no, is a fictional character from the movie Training Day. Alonzo Harris, of course, the courageous fellow that he is afraid to use his real name. So unless we have, what's the actor that played him Training Day? What's his name? Denzel Washington.
Yeah, there's Denzel Washington, yeah.
Unless it's Denzel Washington. So anyway, so Jesus was born circa 4 BCE, near the time of death of Herod the Great. He spent his childhood and early adult years in Nazareth, a Galilean village. He was baptized by John the Baptist. He called disciples. He taught in the towns, villages, and countryside of Galilee, apparently not the cities. He preached the kingdom of God, and about the year 30 he went to Jerusalem for Passover, and he created a disturbance in the temple. He had a final meal with the disciples. He was arrested and interrogated by Jewish authorities, specifically the high priest. He was executed in the orders of Roman prefect Pontius Pilate. So, moving on. Now, we may add here a short list of equally secure facts about the aftermath of Jesus' life. His disciples fled. They saw him, in what sense is not certain, after his death, and as a consequence, they believed that he would return to found the kingdom.
Mhm.
Right? This was a kingdom of heaven. Do you want to add a comment on that? This was not an earthly kingdom, as he said.
Right, and what he's making, guys, is he's making the minimal facts argument, right? So this is what a historian's gonna look at. They're just making minimal facts. This is what we can be very certain happened, and this is what we can be very certain people believed, right? And so this is a really good place to start, I think, when we're talking about the historicity of Jesus. There's no doubt that he existed when we're talking about this.
Right. And then the people who saw him and knew him, they formed a community to await his return and sought to win others to faith as God's Messiah. Right. So he's the historian at Duke University. Now, what can we know about Jesus's miracles? Let me just bring this down for the moment. Large crowds came to him, right, bringing with them those who were lame, crippled, and so on. So now there's obviously, this is Matthew 15:30 to 31. So people saw the mute speaking, the cripple restored, the lame walking, and the blind seeing, and they glorified the God of Israel. Right, so this is the evidence given by Matthew. And about this time there lived Jesus, a wise man, for he was one who wrought surprising feats. That's Josephus in Antiquities 18.63 and in one historically accepted version.
Mhm.
Right, so this is Josephus who is now corroborating the story of Matthew.
Correct. And this is, like you said, it's a historically accepted version. This is not an interpolation. Um, so yeah.
So Jesus had come from a village in Judea and was the son of a poor Jewess who gave birth to Jesus. Here's a question, though, for Muslims. It's a very important question. Even the Quran admits that Jesus was born of a virgin.
Mhm.
So if no man was the father of Jesus, who was his father?
A word, the word of Allah. Be, and it was. Except for, yeah.
Yeah. So if Jesus didn't have an earthly father, who was his father? You know? So Jesus, on account of his poverty, was hired out to go to Egypt. While there, he acquired certain magical powers, which Egyptians pride themselves on possessing. He returned home, highly elated at possessing these powers, and on the strength of them, gave himself out to be a god. Now, that's Celsus from Contra Celsum. Now, of
Mhm.
course, Contra Celsum was a book dealing with the claims made by Celsus, someone who was a pagan who hated the Christian church, hated Christians, and he railed against the fact that the Christians were taking people away from paganism. They were destroying paganism by attracting people to this new faith. Now, of course, it's interesting that people claim that, as you very correctly said last week, AT, that Christianity is just paganism when pagans were complaining that Christianity was not paganism.
Seems contradictory to me. This is like what Celsus wrote here is really good again, guys. So this is the methodology that I want us to all be thinking through. So Jesus came from a village of Judea, right? So first of all, Celsus is affirming that Jesus existed, right? He's affirming that he came from a Jewish person, right, who gave birth to him. Doesn't say anything about the virgin birth or anything like that, but we can assume that he was alive, right, regardless of how he came into existence. Um, and then he starts to explain the miracles of Jesus, right? So this is actually affirmation that he believes, Celsus believes, Jesus did actually perform miracles. Now he attributes his miracles to learning magic from Egypt, but that doesn't say, that he didn't perform miracles. It actually affirms that he did, and it also affirms, this is really cool, that he gave himself out to be God. right? This
Yeah.
also affirms that Christ was claiming to be divine and that people believed it.
Yeah. The only controversy here is the different source of the divine power that people ascribe to it. Some said it's black magic, some said it's witchcraft, some said it's this, some said it's that. They didn't argue about whether or not he did miracles, they argued about how he did them. Okay. Alonzo Harris, oh, the moves looked great, but only works on untrained people. So suddenly it's like, oh, Lloyd, you have awesome moves. I'm so scared. And like, oh, yeah, that only works on untrained people moving at Tai Chi speed who are under 4 months old. I, I think that's what. Ah, Alonzo, Alonzo,
just
Alonzo
just
Harris.
just ignore it, man. Just ignore it.
Alonzo
He's just
Harris was shot to pieces in his car by the Russian mob at the end of the movie, right? He did get his ass handed to him pretty badly. And
Mhm.
yeah, yeah, no, it works on untrained people. Are you claiming to be trained, Alonzo? Because you might not know who I am and what I can do. Just, keep talking. Keep talking, buddy. So let's have a look here. On the eve of Passover, Yeshua was hanged for 40 days before the execution took place. A herald went forth and cried, he's going forth to be stoned because he has practiced sorcery and enticed Israel to apostasy. That's in the Jewish Sanhedrin 43a.
Mhm.
He's a black belt.
I usually wear my black belt with black pants and black shoes.
Oh,
Uh,
God. Black belt.
sometimes I'm a brown belt if I have, tan pants and tan shoes. Just depends. Um, right, but what is the Jewish Sanhedrin also saying? Right,
Yeah,
so A, it's affirming that Jesus was killed. Now it believes he was hanged and he was there for 40 days before the execution took place, blah blah blah, right? So there's different ways and methods on how they get there, but what it's affirming is death and that he practiced miracles. He did miracles which they attribute to sorcery, and they're also saying that he led Israel to apostasy, right? Because he claimed to be God in the flesh and that people should follow him. All of these things that you've put up here on the screen, Lloyd, are really good. This is what historical critics are going to look at. They're going to look at the internal sources from the Bible, and they're going to corroborate those things with the external sources and come up with the minimal facts. Right? The minimal facts are
right.
Jesus existed, Jesus was killed, people believed he was God, and people
So
believe that
you
he
have
was
multiple
supernaturally risen from the
independent
dead.
accounts that confirm what is stated in the book of Matthew in this case. So you have multiple independent accounts that all confirm this. These are all resources from antiquity saying the same thing. So yeah, let's continue. Okay, so what is interesting in this testimony, in these extra biblical writings, hardly partisan on behalf of Christian claims. Don't forget, many of these, like the Jews at the time, had a strong hatred for Christians, but then again, the Christians had a strong hatred for Jews. Okay, so let's not think that the church is innocent here, right?
Mhm.
The church is guilty of a lot of Jewish deaths. The church
Correct.
has a lot of blood in its hands.
But not the early church, by the way. The early church
Yeah,
was a
yeah.
one
And then, of
way
course, you've got all of these
persecution
people
street.
who were railing against Christianity, how Christianity was destroying their pagan religions, and they are saying that these claims are true. So, hardly partisan is that the account of Jesus' healing and exorcistic success are nowhere disputed, only
Mhm.
the reasons for that success. And that's from James Dunn, right? So let's see if I have a note for who James Dunn is. Okay, so no, I don't have a reference for that. I didn't grab that.
Yeah, I mean,
Okay,
he's
let's
super
continue.
famous. Most people know him.
So, Mariana says the letters of Pilate to Caesar are more proof. Yes, yes, yes. I mean, yeah. So Festus was, thanks for that, Mariana. So Festus was now dead, and Albius was but upon the raid. So he assembled the Sanhedrin of the judges and brought before them the brother of Jesus, who was called Christ, whose name was James, and some others. And when he had formed an accusation against them as breakers of the law, he delivered him to be stoned. And this is in Josephus in Antiquities 20.9.1.
Mhm.
So now, your thoughts?
Well, I mean, what is this affirming, right? This is affirming that Jesus existed, right? Because he was called Christ, right? So people believed he was the Messiah. He existed, and he had a brother named James, who, by the way, has a book in the Bible. Um, and that James became a martyr, right? So one thing historians can't say for sure is why was James martyred. Now there's a very good argument to believe that it's because he was calling people to follow Jesus as the Messiah and Jesus as their Lord and Savior, because there's really no other reason for him to be killed.
Right. I just need to note that Alonzo Harris has let us know that King Kong ain't got S on him.
Hey, Alonzo, at least you're funny, buddy. At least you're funny. We can appreciate that. Um,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, true, true. At least he's a BJJ black belt.
King
Awesome, dude.
Kong.
Okay, can we stay on topic now, Alonzo? We've allowed you to express yourself. We know you're a tough guy. Yes, yes, yes. Blah blah blah. Whatever, whatever, whatever. So yeah. Well, anyway, my history is that's history. So moving on. So guys, just let's not get into the discussion about Alonzo Harris and his martial arts skills and all that and blah blah blah. Yeah, stay on topic. Thanks. Okay, so now, at this time, there was a wise man who was called Jesus, and his conduct was good, and he was known to be virtuous. Many people among the Jews and other nations became his disciples. Pilate condemned him to be crucified and to die. And those who had become his disciples did not abandon his discipleship. They reported that he had appeared to them 3 days after his crucifixion, and that he was alive. Accordingly, he was perhaps the Messiah concerning whom the prophets have recounted wonders.
Mhm.
That's again Josephus, the historian in Antiquities.
Yep. Just once again, Jesus existed. People believe that he was for sure killed. People believe that he was rose again. People continued to follow him, right? Minimal
Yeah,
facts.
and on the eve of Passover, Yeshua was hanged. Since nothing was brought forward in his favor, he was hanged on the eve of Passover. That's Sanhedrin 43a. So
Hmm.
there again, you've got this. Discussing the Talmud would be very, very interesting one time. I've got an extensive amount of notes on the Talmud. I've done numerous shows with Logos Media, with Jan and I discussed this. That would be something very interesting to discuss, to go through. Okay. Murtad ex-Muslim X asks Alonzo, what's for dinner? A mermaid? It's halal. It's halal officially.
Uh, Stay on
So
topic, everybody. Funny, hilarious. Let's stay on topic.
Nero substituted as culprits and punished with utmost refinement of cruelty a class of men loathed for their vices, whom the crowd styled Christians. Christus, from whom they got their name, had been executed by sentence of the procurator Pontius Pilate when Tiberius was emperor. That's in Tacitus, Annals, Book 15. So now you've got Tacitus. I believe he was a Roman general, or was he a Roman general? Correct?
That's actually a great question. I'm not sure.
Yeah, we need to look into that. But yeah, so now they were in the habit of meeting on a certain fixed day before it was light, and they sang an anthem to Christ as God, and they bound themselves by a solemn oath not to commit any wicked deed. From Pliny the Younger, Letters, Series 10. So now you've got, again, corroboration by Pliny the Younger. And the
Hmm.
Christians, worship a man to this day, the distinguished personage who introduced their novel rites and was crucified on that account. These misguided creatures deny the gods of Greece. Again, they denied the pagan gods. So if why are the pagans complaining that the Christians aren't pagan when people are now saying that Christianity is paganism?
Because we don't think about things. We just come up with ideas and we run with them.
So they deny the gods of Greece and they worship the crucified sage and live after his laws. This is Lucian, the works of Lucian of Samosata or Samosata. Right, and then finally, also I had a chat with someone, guys. By the way, I've had some good news. I got to thank Yeshua, is Yahweh, for this kind introduction. But I had a chance to speak with a well-known personality on YouTube, and it was a really fruitful, very interesting discussion. And so expect a collaboration as well with another well-known ex-Muslim on YouTube, and so we'll be doing some talks in the near future. So yeah, just look forward to that. Um, Now, if the Christians worshipped only one God, they might have reason on their side. But as a matter of fact, they worship a man who appeared only recently. So at least Celsus is admitting that Jesus appeared as a man, and their worship of this Jesus is the more outrageous because they refuse to listen to any talk about God, the Father of all. unless it includes some reference to Jesus. And when they call him the Son of God, they're not really paying homage to God, rather they are attempting to exalt Jesus to the heights.
Mhm.
Celsus in contra celsum.
Yeah. So what does that tell you about the earliest Christian beliefs? That they worshiped Jesus, right, as God.
As God.
Period.
Yeah.
End of story. Right now, Celsus disagrees with that concept. A lot of people disagree with that concept. That's a completely different. It's a different discussion. But the point is when we hear Muslims go, "Oh, the earliest Christians didn't believe Jesus was God." Hello. Yes, they did. That's Orthodox Christianity. Did the earliest Christians believe Jesus escaped the cross, like Muslims try to say? No. It's verifiably multiply independently attested from within Christianity and outside Christianity that nobody believed that.
Yeah, what's interesting is the Quran attests that Jesus ascended into heaven. Allah gave him favor and rescued him, yet Muhammad died horribly on
Hmm.
earth and was not taken up to heaven. I mean, Muhammad died from poison.
Right. And one of the
It's just,
irony of ironies is, or the early Christian church, I think even the Orthodox and Catholics still believe this, that if someone is unsaved and they eat the body of Christ, who is the Lamb of God, that will eventually kill that person. So the irony of ironies here is that it was Muhammad who ate the lamb, right, the leg of lamb, and he was eventually killed. I just find that to be ironic. I don't think that's like a real argument, but it always kind of
yeah.
raises an eyebrow when I think about that.
Yeah, we should do a show on the death of Muhammad. I should also do a show on Islam and women. And yeah, man, I got to do the Talmud. I have to do the Gnostic origins of Islam and the parallels between and the differences between what we know as Gnosticism in Islam
Hmm.
and
Yeah.
yeah, those are man. There's just so much to do. I've been reading up on that subject. It's yeah. Okay, let's continue. Right. So, what did it avail the Samians to burn Pythagoras, since their country was entirely buried under sand in one moment? What did it avail the Jews to kill their wise king, since their kingdom was taken away from them that time on? Or the kingdom was taken away from them from that time on. So their earthly kingdom was removed from them for doing so.
Hmm.
Alonzo Harris has never heard of someone who lives for 3 years after being poisoned. Poisoned by a roasted sheep. Yeah,
Well,
so
I've
Muhammad
I've
couldn't
never
handle
heard
the
of it
sheep,
either,
but
Alonzo, but Muhammad himself said to Aisha 3 years later, so you can go ahead and deny your Sahih Hadith. He said 3 years later to Aisha, "Oh Aisha, I feel my aorta," which, by the way, is aorta being cut, is a sign of him being a
yeah.
false prophet,
Now we
according to the
can,
Quran. "I feel the pain of the poison I ate at Khaybar. It is killing me," is essentially what he's saying. So don't argue with us. Whether or not someone can die at a later date from poison is doesn't matter. What matters is what the best of mankind, God's chosen final prophet said. What did he say? Right? And you're going to have to explain to us why your Sahih narration is not so Sahih, right? And then, yeah,
yeah.
just go ahead and
Well, let's
explain
have
that
a
to us.
look. I
I'd
mean, you've got
love to
Quran
see.
69, 44 to 46. If Muhammad had forged the false saying concerning us, we would have seized him by his right hand, and then certainly should have cut off his life artery there, aorta. And of
Hmm.
course, in pictorial, we would have severed his life artery, and then we would have severed his heart's vein, and would have cut off his aorta, Shakir. Let's look at the commentaries in Tafsir Ibn Abbas, who, as you know, is not a good Muslim, suddenly, as of right now. And then severed his life artery, the life artery of Muhammad. In Tafsir Jalalain, we would have assuredly severed his life artery, the aorta. In
Hmm.
Tafsir Ibn Kathir, it refers to the artery of the heart. Okay? And in Tustari, we would have assuredly severed his life artery, this being the aorta, which is the main artery to which the heart is attached. And if it is cut, the person dies. We would
Hmm.
have cut it off as a result of his transgression against us. Oh, that verse is in the past. We would have look the entire, just so you know, the entire Quran's in the past. Just kind of just work from there. Ibn Kathir, the Jews would still try to kill the Prophet in the future using poison and magic during the illness that preceded the death of the Prophet. The Prophet said, I kept feeling the effect of what I ate from the poisoned sheep during the day of Khaybar, until now, when it is the time that the aorta will be cut off. And that is Tafsir Ibn Kathir. And this
Hmm.
hadith was collected by Bukhari and others. In
Yeah.
Kushairi, Abu Bakr said, whoever worships Muhammad, Muhammad has died. Why if he should die was slain? Because the Prophet was slain. The Prophet was killed, right? The Prophet said, the meal of Khaybar comes to me yet again, but this time it has cut my aorta. That's in Tafsir Kushairi 3144, right?
Hmm.
Muhammad himself says. Let's have a look. So Muhammad came out leaning on two men while his feet were dragging on the ground. It was a slow death, okay? It was a very, very slow death. And Aisha said, I never saw anyone suffer more pain than the messenger of Allah,
Yeah.
right?
So
Now,
one thing I'd like to say, if you're done, buddy, are you?
Now, Alonso says, I've never seen a doctor that says you can live for 3 years after your aorta is cut off. Muhammad nowhere says that he lived for 3 years after his aorta was cut. He was poisoned and then his
Yes.
aorta was cut and he died.
So
So please don't twist the words. That's
right,
very
that's exactly
dishonest.
what. Yeah, that's exactly what you're doing right now, Alonzo. You are twisting the words. You're changing what our argument is. It's called building a straw man. What I said very clearly, everybody can hear. You can rewind this video later. Is that it doesn't matter whether or not someone can die 3 years later after eating poison. That doesn't matter, right? You can make an argument all day long. What I'm telling you is that Sahih Bukhari records that Muhammad attributed his death to the food he ate at Khaybar, which was poisoned. That's all I'm saying, right?
Yeah,
So if doctors agree with you or disagree with you, it doesn't matter. You need to answer to the Sahih narration and you need to answer to the words of your prophet. And if you disagree with him, fine. We would welcome you to become an apostate. Please do it for the
yeah.
sake of the world.
So, I mean, Aisha says she never saw anyone suffer more pain than the messenger of Allah. In fact, I'll just bold this. Why not? It's worth making bold. So, going on, okay? Now, when the last moment of the life of Allah's Messenger came, he started to put his khamis on his face, and when he felt hot and short of breath, he said, May Allah curse the Jews and the Christians, for they built places of worship at the graves of their prophets. The Prophet was warning Muslims of what those had done, and then when Muhammad died, they built a place of worship at his grave. His grave is now a place of worship, so I don't know. It's the pot calling the kettle black,
Yeah,
methinks.
we
So,
can't do
Hadith
that.
references a Jewess brought a poisoned sheep for the Prophet who ate from it. She was brought to the Prophet and he was asked, Shall we kill her? He said, No, I continued to see the effect of the poison on the palate of the mouth of the messenger. Narrated Aisha, the Prophet in his ailment in which he died used to say, O Aisha, I still feel the pain caused by the food I ate at Khubr. That's how my Arabic friends used to pronounce it when I was in Saudi Arabia. They said
Hmm.
Khubr. I still feel the pain caused by the food I ate at Khubr, and at this time I feel as if my aorta is being cut from that poison. At this
Exactly.
time, not 3 years prior.
Would you mind showing him that from the link at
He's
Quran
saying, Show me the hadith on screen. I believe I'm showing everything
It
on
is
screen
right now.
right now.
Let's just click the link so he can see it, so he can affirm that you didn't change the words.
So I'm actually showing it on screen right now, and he's saying, Show me the link on screen. I'm showing it on screen, and he's asking me to show it on screen. Like, how logical is that?
It
Oops,
is
sorry.
illogical, but
Sorry, no, hold on. Sorry, let me just grab the link,
yeah. And I
paste it
can
here.
find it too. Yeah.
Here it is. Sahih Bukhari, Volume 5, Book 59, Hadith 713. The Prophet, in his ailment in which he died, used to say, Aisha, I still feel the pain caused by the food I ate at Khaybar, and at this time I feel as if my aorta is being cut from that poison. So, sorry, so there it is. That is, he says, I feel, and at this time I feel as if my aorta is being cut from that poison. So, yeah, so let's continue. Let's continue and see what else is being said. Muhammad then said, so the messenger, notice here the contradiction, okay? He says, when they ask him, should we kill the Jewess, right? He says, no. Okay, shall we kill her? He said, no. And here in this hadith, they say, no, don't kill the Jewess. Then you get down a little bit, and then they tell you that she was killed. That's a clear contradiction. Your thoughts there, AT?
Um. Yeah. I mean, he was being killed. Was
No,
killed,
no, no.
period.
But he said in the first hadith it says that she wasn't killed. He said, "Shall we kill her?" And Muhammad says no.
Oh, you're
But
saying
the
that the
other hadiths
Jewess,
state
yes,
that she
right,
was killed.
yeah.
Now you've got a contradiction here. I mean, so which
Mhm.
one is accurate? Was she killed? Was she not killed?
Right,
Now,
well,
Alonzo Harris,
what
his aorta is
Alonso's
not
yeah.
cut off. I've never seen anyone talking when his aorta is cut off. Well, you better tell Muhammad that.
Exactly, dude, quit strawmanning the
As
situation.
if
Steel
he
man what we're
felt as
saying.
if. So he says, I mean, do you sometimes feel as if your leg is broken? Does that mean that your nose is running? If you feel as if, and Chloe Walker says, as if isn't in the Arabic. Yes, it's not. So notice she was killed. Muhammad then said about the pain of which he died, I continued to feel the pain from the morsel which I had eaten at Khaybar. This is the time when it has cut off my aorta. Muhammad says, this is the time when it has cut off my aorta. Those are the words of Muhammad.
Right, and it's a phrase, right? Why are you turning this into a literal interpretation, Alonzo? It's a phrase saying, "I'm dying,"
Yeah.
period.
Because in Islam, Muhammad's death was a martyrship. Instead of, he was actually just poisoned to death because he ate sheep. Anas reported that a Jewess came to Allah's messenger with poisoned mutton, and he took of that what had been brought to him. When the effect of this poison was felt by him, he called for and asked about that. And then the Prophet said, shall we kill her? Then he said, no. And Anas said, I felt the effects of this poison on the uvula of Allah's messenger. Let's look at the sira, the poison in it, and poisoned the land. Bishop died from what he had eaten. The apostle
Oh.
said in his illness of which he was to die, O Bishop, this is the time in which I feel a deadly pain from what I ate with your brother at Khubr. And in Tabari, that's in the earliest Ibn Hisham. At this very moment, I feel my aorta being severed because of the food I ate with your son at Khubr. That's in At-Tabari. Alonzo, you can look these up. Just look through the video later. It's all here. It's
Mhm.
on the screen live for everyone to see. Look through the video later at your leisure and have a look through these. These are something like 20 references. I'd like you
Yeah,
to
we
show me
call
the
that an
ones.
embarrassment of riches, by the way,
Yeah.
so it's in a bunch of different narrations,
Yeah. In Sirat Ibn
way to
Ishaq,
get around
during
this
his last
except to
sickness,
make up
years
weird
later,
stories.
the apostle said, I feel the vein of my heart bursting from the food I ate at Khubr. He said to them, the death of the Messenger of Allah, in page 478, the Sirah of Muhammad, I still feel the pain caused by the food I ate on the day of Khubr, and this is the time to show the breaking of my heart aorta from that poison. Right? So I think that's plenty. I gave about 20 or 25, I don't know, a dozen or more, I don't know, references. I think that's pretty clear. So let's go
Mhm.
back to the topic of
Crystal.
Muhammad. Right. So what did it avail them? Or what did it avail the Jews to kill their wise king, since the kingdom was taken away from them from that time on? Socrates is not dead, thanks to Plato, nor Pythagoras, because of Herod's statute, nor is the wise king, because of the new law which he has given. And it was Mara bar Serapion, Stoic writer from AD 75.
Mhm.
Right, so now you've got people saying, look, he died, but his message lived on, just like Socrates' message lived on,
Yeah.
right?
So he was known as a king, right? A wise king. That means he was a teacher, right? It obviously shows that he was killed, and people continue to follow him. It's pretty simple.
Yep. So all this external historical evidence, let me just move my images again. All this external historical evidence certainly does render highly implausible any far-fetched theories that even Jesus' very existence was a Christian invention. The fact that Jesus existed, that he was crucified under Pontius Pilate for whatever reason, that he had a band of followers who continued to support his cause, seemed to be part of the bedrock of historical tradition. If nothing else, the non-Christian evidence can provide us with certainty on that score, and that's Oxford historian Christopher Tuckett. Alonzo Harris, the whole content of the verse in the Quran is proof for his prophethood. Otherwise, we would have cut off. And then they did cut off his aorta. So his aorta was cut. It was a completion. So that's the evidence of Islam. So yes, and he was a false prophet. So that's why Allah killed him. He spoke words. That's why the satanic verses happened and Muhammad died.
Yeah.
So yeah, let's move on. So conclusions and final thoughts. We're about to wrap up. So, AT, your thoughts. I mean, we just wanted to present some of the evidence from external sources without belaboring the point, but these are
Mhm.
quotes taken from multiple different sources. Your
Right.
thoughts?
So from looking at it from a purely historical standpoint, right? So the video we did last week about the Jesus myth video, saying Jesus never existed, right? The only thing that we need to prove is that, beyond a shadow of a doubt, that Jesus existed. We don't have to prove anything else beyond that, right? It is the most well-known fact of history that Jesus Christ existed and was crucified by Pontius Pilate, right? His existence is not within question. There's no questioning that. Um, what we've also learned today is outside sources affirm that he was known as a miracle worker, right? No one denies that he did miracles. They argue about how he did miracles. Nobody denies
Hmm.
that he was killed or who he was killed by, right? It's just, was he hanged? Was he whatever, right? There's just no doubt. The biblical narrative, guys, is in line with the external sources around it.
Yeah,
And I don't think there's a whole lot more to say. It's pretty self-evident from the
yeah.
video.
So let's just go back to the three quotes that. Thank you very much, Chloe. That was much appreciated, and certainly about time. Um, so historically, so this was a quote from Bertrand Russell. Historically, it is quite doubtful whether Christ ever existed at all, and if he did, we know nothing about him. Then Bertrand Russell needs to prove that Tacitus and all of these other scholars of ancient history, all of them are false scholars. All of them lied. All of them, many of them not Christians, that they made up these stories, right? And that these stories that they were writing about did not exist. I mean, as we know here, Richard Dawkins, nobody knows, blah, 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 but they almost never met Jesus. And of course, he says it is even plausible to mount a serious, though not widely supported, historical case that Jesus never lived at all, as has been done by Professor G.A. Wells of the University of London. It must be noted that G.A. Wells in the 90s recanted his theory that Jesus never existed. He actually took that back. So so Richard Dawkins, our fine biologist, is actually quoting a scholar that changed his mind, and he's quoting G.A. Wells from the 1970s. G.A. Wells wrote this book, I believe, in 1971, but in a 1990 interview, G.A. Wells said that he could not support that. Okay, he could actually not support that
Mhm.
claim of his, and he said that he can't support that, so therefore he doesn't see that it's possible. So actually, let me try and find that quote from G.A. Wells. I'm actually going to try and find the slide with that. So he's quoting a guy that actually, here we go. Fascinating. I'll bring this up again. Yeah. So guys, yeah. So as you know, also then there was Zeitgeist where they made the same claim. So let's just finish it. As I urged you upon my departure to Macedonia, remain at, okay. Now, yeah. People say that we believe myths, that the Bible promotes myths, that everyone believed only myths. The New Testament actually speaks out against myths. So these are the last few slides, guys. We've got about 4 slides to go. As I urge you upon my departure for Macedonia, remain at Ephesus, so that you may instruct certain men not to teach strange doctrines, nor to pay attention to myths. 1 Timothy 1, 3-4. Your thoughts, AT? These are the last 3 slides, or four
Yeah,
slides.
no, I mean, this is once again proving that Jesus existed, that there are no myths associated with any of this. So yeah.
So, Erkan, I mean, look, certainly, if I have to bring every detailed proof that exists, we'll be here for multiple hours. We'll be here for probably a month because people need to actually go to Oxford and Cambridge and go to serious universities. Okay. uh, Nicholas, yeah, I have an automatic screen background changer. Changes my background all the time. Okay.
Or you have
So,
more virtual backgrounds than
so
Muhammad
for
had
the
live. That's awesome.
For the time will come when they will not endure sound doctrine, but wanting to have their ears tickled, they will accumulate for themselves teachers in accordance with to their own desires, and will turn away their ears from the truth, and will turn aside to myths.
Mhm.
Okay, that's again in 2 Timothy as a warning for following myths. And for we did not follow cleverly devised tales when we made known to you the power and the coming of our Lord Jesus Christ, but we were eyewitnesses of his majesty in 2 Peter 1:16.
Mhm.
Okay. And of course, this is from one historian. We have examined a total of 45 ancient sources for the life of Jesus, which include 19 early creedal works, 4 archaeological works, 17 non Christian works, and 5 non New Testament Christian sources. From this data, we enumerated 129 reported facts concerning the life, person, teachings, death, and resurrection of Jesus, plus the disciples' earliest message. there can be little doubt that this is a substantial amount of pre- and non-New Testament material for Jesus' existence. In light of these reports, we can better understand how groundless the speculations are that deny his existence or that postulate only a minimal amount of facts concerning him. These are simply just assertions made by people who obviously do not want or do not like Christian teachings.
Exactly.
When Richard Dawkins, let me just go drop this down here. When Richard Dawkins says, actually, you know what? I should also have a look here about this statement by, not here. I just want to find this reference. Okay, in 2003, it should be noted that Wells, A.G. Wells, that Richard Dawkins quoted earlier, 2003, he stated that he disagreed with Robert Price on the information about Jesus being all mythical. Okay, so when Richard Dawkins says a serious historical case can be made that Jesus never lived at all, he no doubt receives applause from his followers and perhaps even from his fellow experts in
Zoology.
zoology. Yeah, but in departments of classics, ancient history, New Testament, Jewish and Near Eastern studies, the relevant disciplines, such a comment is entirely bemusing. All the more so when one discovers that Dawkins' sole example of this is G.A. Wells. As is well known, Wells is a professor of German language at London University, so he's a real biblical scholar.
Absolutely.
Because as you know, the Bible was written in German, right?
Yeah, everybody knows that.
In Bavaria in 1825, as we all know.
Yeah.
Who in any case has publicly retracted his argument of the 1970s. So in the 2003, he retracted his 1970s argument that Jesus was a myth. I've often wondered what Dawkins would say if I disputed biological evolution and cited a language professor as my sole authority, and one that had changed his mind to boot. So that's a very fair question from John Dixon. So yeah, of course, Ian Blakelock, this is a fairly old quote. Could it be that there are always those irked under the thrust and pressure of Jesus Christ's commanding person, or searched and wrecked by his words, who seek comfort in some hope that the records were falsified? In this hope of a delusion exposed, they turned the attack upon the historicity of Jesus. Christianity triumphed over its most serious opponent, the soldier's worship of the soldierly Mithras, largely because Christianity could oppose the legendary Mithras with the historical reality of Christ. It is necessarily against him that those aim their shafts, who indulge in the strange death wish that life is all sound and fury, signifying nothing, and a hole in the damp turf, the final escape.
It's well
Ian
said. Yeah.
Blakelock.
Very well said.
Alonzo Harris is back on his "you took from another hadith and not from the hadith as if blah, 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 blah." So how many sources, how many major scholars are you going to disagree with? Understand? So
All 24 sources or
he says the
22 of
Jewish
many.
woman wanted to kill him immediately. She failed. Yes, that's true. And, you know, he was poisoned though, and he died from it. He admits it himself. So unless you're saying
Mhm.
Muhammad is a liar, and then you, of course, are committing Sab al Rasul. And as we know, that's why you cannot disagree with anything that embarrasses Islam, even if it's true. Because Sab al Rasul, the ruling on insulting Muhammad, means that if anything is said that would insult Muhammad, would insult Islam, that person, that Muslim must be killed, including non Muslims. The ruling applies to everybody, not just Muslims. Okay, so yeah, so guys, so I think this is about it. Okay, so that's it. By the way, if you go to PowerPointApologist.org, you'll find plenty of these fantastic presentations, ones that I've edited for this. And that's it for me, guys. Thank you. AT, your thoughts?
That's it, man. I know we went for a while, so thank you everybody for watching. We'll keep a lookout at our feelers out for anybody who's interested in actually having a serious conversation with us about Sharia. Alonzo, I look forward to. I don't think I've got a message from you, but I look forward to hearing from you in the message so we can get together and have a good, healthy, honest conversation. But yeah, man, that's it for me, man.
Yeah. You should look at the beginning of our discussion here on the ruling on eating mermaids. Alonso, you should tell us that you may want to reinterpret this because, as you know, the miracle of reinterpretation is what Islam does best,
Mhm.
right? And of course, you may want to look at this fantastic ruling here on marrying young girls. And yeah, very, very interesting. Um, so Nicholas Paulson says church shy away from the topic when I bring it up, scared to be called racist and socially expelled. This frustrates me extremely much. Do you have any suggestion as to what ideas? What would that be, Nicholas? I'm not quite certain what you're referring to here. You can just put that in.
So I think I understand what he's saying. So church shy away from the topic when I bring it up. So he's just saying that the church is scared to bring it up because they're afraid to be called Islamophobes, essentially, right? And he's frustrated
But what
by
subject
that.
exactly is
So
he bringing up?
what can he do? What do you think he can do to help this? Not to go outside Christian faith, but a very famous quote from Gandhi. It says, "Be the change you wish to see in the world." You can't go change in the church or anything like that, right? We are the church individually, right? And then that becomes a collective. So just do what it is
Mm.
that you need to do.
Yeah,
Inform yourself, inform people, and when the movement reaches the tipping point, then the glass of water is going to tip over, and it's going to be on.
yeah. No, yeah. So anyway, so yeah, guys, thanks for the interesting conversation. Um, yeah, Murtara showed you Wajada. So Alonso Harris. So it should be noted there are fluent Arabic speakers, native Arabic speakers in the chat right now.
Hmm.
So that should be noted. Yeah, but look, the thing is, when you show multiple sources, including the word of Muhammad himself, and you just can't read Murtad. Well, yeah, Alonso, can you read? Because your own prophet himself states that his aorta is being cut. He feels his aorta being cut. It doesn't feel as if his knee is broken. It doesn't feel as if his nose is running. Okay. I feel as if my nose is itching. Does that mean my nose is not itching? Right? If I feel as if I'm going to puke, does that mean I'm not going to puke, but I'm going to receive, I don't know, money in the mail? No. I feel as if I'm going to puke means I feel as if I'm going to puke. I feel as
Hmm.
if I feel as if I'm going to sneeze means I feel as if I'm going to sneeze.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
I'm afraid you are rather twisting these interpretations. And so, look, seriously, at this point, you are not the subject of the conversation. I'm going to put you in timeout because you're just disrupting. Thoughts from you, AT?
No, no more thoughts. I think we've expressed ourselves enough today. I'm actually getting a little
Thank you.
hankering for some mermaid meat right now. Do you have any
Mermaid
suggestions on
barbecue?
how
Can
to
we?
cook it? Like we slow cook it, medium rare, well done. I don't really know. I don't really know the proper way to do it. What kind of wine does it pair with? I'm not sure.
Nicholas, his half his chat got censored by YouTube. Yeah, I know. So look, we need to ask the Muslims if they have any mermaid recipes.
Yeah, halal ones, of course.
Yeah. So
I would always bacon wrap them, but I don't think you can do that.
yeah,
Yeah.
well, you know how popular Macon, which is like turkey bacon, is in the Middle East. It's crazy popular. It's like
Oh yeah.
they want bacon.
So
Um,
good.
Bacon is actually what you use to vaccinate yourself from Islam. So guys, so
How many different shots do you need of the vaccine? Is it like a you need boosters daily or weekly? Like
as
what's the
regular as possible.
yeah.
Okay,
Uh,
guys, like we should call it a day here. I'm pretty much done. So thank you. This went longer than expected. Chloe, thank you very much for your time. Smiler, good to meet you. Murtad, ex-Muslim, thank you for being here. So many others. Nicholas, pity about the comment, but drop it in the quotes. Drop it in the comments later, and we'll see if we can respond to that. Yeshua's Yahweh, thank you again for everything. It's been a really fantastic week. Keep up the great work. AT, thank you. Couldn't do this without you. Guys, his channel link is in the comments. Please go to his channel. Please subscribe. Tell your friends about it. Oh, Nicholas says pigs automatically convert vegetables to bacon. If that isn't proof for intelligent design, I know what that could be.
Nicholas, you, my friend, need to be a stand-up comedian. You are hilarious all the time. So thank you for brightening our chats, man. Appreciate it.
Okay, man. Yeah, so we should call it here, guys. I got to get some dinner. But guys, thank you. We'll see you soon. I will make an announcement. Steven, I might be on with Steven again. I need to chat to him, but we got to finish some questions and do some stuff. But yeah, guys, look for an announcement soon. I'll be on with another well-known YouTuber, and thanks to Yeshua is Yahweh. And guys, yeah, go follow AT, please. And thank you all very much for being here, for the support. Erkan, thank you very much for always being here and for all of your help. Wajada means affection. Okay, interesting. So anyway, but thank you, Erkan, as always, for being here. Much appreciated your support. And by the way, Erkan, as I said, if you ever want to chat to me live, I mean, by all means, give me a shout. We can chat via Skype and talk, if you have any specific questions or anything. Okay, guys, thank you very much, and we'll see you next week or see you soon.
All right.
Okay,
See you guys.
take care. Thank you. Bye.